Welcome to the deep dive. We are taking a stack of your sources, pulling out the most important pieces, and helping you make sense of it all so you can be well informed without drowning in information.
Exactly.
Today, we are diving into something pretty significant happening right now in Google search, specifically within its experimental AI mode.
Right.
We've been looking at a recent Search Engine Journal article detailing a new capability. One that could, well, dramatically change how you access, understand, and maybe even visualize financial data online.
That's right. And our mission for this particular deep dive is pretty focused. We're going to unpack exactly what this new AI-powered feature is, how it works, from your perspective as someone asking a question.
Okay.
And also, who stands to be most impacted by it? Both you, the individual user, and importantly, financial publishers who create content online. And maybe what this signals for the broader evolution of search and how information is presented. And crucially, everything we discuss, every insight, every detail, it's drawn strictly and only from the information in this single source. We're not bringing in outside knowledge or speculating beyond what the article itself suggests.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because this isn't just, another text summary from an AI. What Google is rolling out here, it goes much further.
It really does.
We're talking about the ability for Google's AI mode to generate custom interactive charts and graphs, like right within the search results interface.
Directly in the results.
Yeah, specifically in response to certain types of financial search queries. It's a surprising leap in functionality, I think.
Yeah.
And the implications for how you might gather and interpret financial data online are, well, pretty fascinating to consider.
And what's particularly notable about how this feature is being introduced is its current status. It's not a mainstream, widely available feature in standard Google search. Not yet, anyway. The article makes it very clear that this capability is currently accessible through Google's AI mode, and specifically via their Labs program.
Ah, Labs. So for people who aren't familiar, what does that actually mean?
Well, Google Labs is essentially Google's public testing ground. It's a place where they preview and experiment with potential new search features, before making decisions about wider rollouts or even if they'll keep the feature at all.
So very much in the R&D phase, but like publicly visible for testing.
Exactly.
But the core function itself, the way the article describes it, sounds quite compelling.
It is.
Imagine needing to get a visual comparison of data, right? Maybe how several companies' stock prices performed over a specific period, or, I don't know, comparing financial metrics across different sectors. Instead of just getting a text summary or, a list of links to websites that might have that chart, you ask AI mode, maybe with a complex question, and boom, it generates that custom interactive chart or graph right there in the response.
That's the idea. The user benefit highlighted in the source is pretty significant. It lets users pose these kinds of relatively complex financial questions that inherently require aggregation and comparison of data.
Right.
And you receive not just a detailed explanation derived from the underlying data, which, you might expect that from an AI summary.
Sure.
But critically, you also get a visual representation. We're talking interactive comparison charts, performance graphs showing trends over time, other visualizations that, make understanding the data much faster, more intuitive than just sifting through text or clicking around multiple sites.
And this wasn't a completely silent launch either, was it? The article mentions Google actually previewed this capability earlier this year.
Yeah, at its annual I/O Developer Conference. So while it's experimental now, it's something that has clearly been on Google's radar. It was being developed and talked about internally before reaching this public labs phase.
Okay, that point about the I/O preview feels important. It suggests this isn't just some random, fleeting experiment that might vanish next week.
Possibly. It indicates that this is probably part of a more deliberate direction Google is exploring for AI within search. Specifically, how AI can move beyond just generating text responses to actually generating dynamic visual data presentations.
Interesting.
However, the article is clear. The current status remains firmly experimental and limited to labs access. It's a testing ground. They're gathering data, gathering feedback, and it's important for users to understand that.
Okay, let's spend a moment really thinking about the user experience here. Because if you're like most people needing to compare financial data, it often involves like a multi-step process, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Might search for company A's stock performance, then company B's, maybe company C's. You'd find different reports, different websites. Then you'd have to somehow pull that data together, maybe, I don't know, manually put it into a spreadsheet or try to find some third-party site that already did the comparison.
Right. Exactly. It can be a pain.
It sounds like Google is attempting to collapse that whole workflow into just a single interaction.
That is absolutely the core promise described in the article. It's a pretty fundamental shift in approach, really.
How so?
Well, Google is moving from primarily being, a directory, a tool to find the websites where the data lives,
The gateway model?
precisely, to becoming more of a synthesizer and presenter of the data itself. The AI mode is designed to understand your need for comparison or aggregation and then handle all the underlying steps, fetching, processing, and then presenting that data back to you directly. Often, as we said, in a visual format that makes the comparison immediately clear.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. We've talked about what it does, but how does this actually work? Like, from my perspective as a user, I type in a complex financial question, one that requires comparing data. Then what happens under the hood, according to the article?
Right, so the article gives a breakdown of that user interaction and the process that follows. It starts, like you said, with you posing that complex financial question to Google AI mode.
And the complexity is important here.
Yes, the complexity is key. You're not typically asking for just a single data point, but rather for a relationship or a comparison or maybe an aggregation of data points across different entities or over a specific period of time.
So not just what is Apple's stock price today, but something more like how has Apple's stock performed relative to Microsoft's and Google's over the past 5 years, that kind of thing.
Precisely. And the source gives a particularly illustrative example, asking AI mode to compare the stock performance of blue-chip CPG companies in 2024.
Okay, let's break that down. Blue chip CPG companies in 2024.
Right. So blue chip usually means large, established, financially sound companies. CPG stands for consumer packaged goods. Think companies making, toothpaste, soda, snacks, laundry detergent.
Got it, the big household names.
Usually, yes. So you're asking for a comparison of their stock performance, probably the change in stock price over the course of a specific year, 2024, for a group of companies fitting those criteria. Now, traditionally, answering that'd be quite a task.
Right. Traditionally, I'd have to figure out which companies are considered blue chip CPG, maybe Procter & Gamble, Coke, Pepsi, Unilever, something like that. Then I'd have to search for each company's stock performance data for 2024, probably on different financial sites dealing with maybe different data formats, and then try to compare them, maybe manually tracking percentage changes or looking at closing prices over time. Yeah, sounds cumbersome.
And that is exactly the multi-step manual process that the article highlights this new AI mode feature aims to streamline, or even eliminate for the user.
Right.
The source emphasizes that AI mode handles the underlying research automatically. You don't have to perform those separate manual searches for each company or each piece of data you need for the comparison.
Google's system does the aggregation behind the scenes.
That's the idea. For a query like comparing blue chip CPG performance in 2024, it would implicitly identify the relevant companies, retrieve their stock price data for that year, tracking it over time, and gather all the necessary info to make that comparison possible.
Okay, so Google's AI figures out not only the intent of my complex question, but also identifies which specific data points and which entities like the companies are needed, and then goes and fetches all that data.
That's the core capability described, yes.
Yeah.
It pulls data from various underlying sources. The article doesn't specify the exact list of sources, but it confirms the system conducts the underlying research to gather the necessary financial data.
Okay.
The key is the user is spared the effort of identifying sources, navigating different websites, manually compiling everything.
And the response isn't just a wall of text summarizing the findings, right? Using that blue chip CPG in 2024 example, the system provides the automated research and the visual charts comparing their stock performance side by side.
Correct. The output, according to the source, is a combination. You get the detailed explanation derived from the automated research. Maybe it explains which companies were included, summarizes the findings, and you get the interactive visual component. The charts, the graphs that let you actually see the performance trends or compare the final values visually.
That's a huge shift right there, just getting the chart directly. But the article also mentions that AI mode understands follow-up questions. Does it maintain context from the initial query and the data it just presented?
Yes, this is another key aspect they highlighted. AI mode is designed with conversational capabilities. It allows it to understand follow-up questions that relate back to the initial query and the data it just showed you.
So it's not just a single question-answer turn.
No, it's designed for more of a continued exploration of the topic.
Can you give us the specific follow-up example from the article?
Absolutely. The source uses the example. If you've just seen the chart comparing the stock performance of those blue chip CPG companies.
Okay.
You could then ask a follow-up question like, did any of these companies pay back dividends?
Okay. And the system understands that these companies refers specifically to that group of CPG blue chips it just charted for me. It doesn't require me to list them out again or re-specify the time frame or anything.
Exactly. It connects these companies back to the entities from the previous interaction.
Yeah.
And it uses the context of the discussion, that financial performance query, for that specific group over that time frame to answer the dividend question within that established scope.
Yeah.
So this means you can have a more fluid, interactive, kind of layered exploration of the financial data without having to start from scratch with each new query or constantly respecify all the parameters. It holds onto the context, which makes the interaction feel more like a conversation with a data assistant.
That level of sophistication, understanding context, and handling follow-ups based on previously presented data, that's quite significant for a search interface.
It is.
It moves it beyond simple lookup to something more like an active analytical tool.
It absolutely does. It's designed to facilitate a deeper dive into a specific financial topic by letting you explore related questions and details based on the initial data presented. All through that conversational interface, layered with the automated data retrieval and the visualization. It requires a pretty sophisticated understanding of both your intent and the structure of the data being discussed.
Okay, so we have a good picture now of what this experimental feature does and how a user interacts with it. But let's peek under the hood a bit. Based on the article, what kind of technology is actually powering this capability to understand complex queries, fetch all this different data, and then generate visuals?
Right, the engine behind it. The article states clearly that this feature is powered by Google's latest generation AI model, Gemini.
Gemini, okay.
And the source attributes its capability here to two key aspects of Gemini: its advanced reasoning and its multimodal capabilities.
Okay, advanced reasoning and multimodal capabilities. Those sound like, well, AI buzzwords. Let's break them down based on the article. What does advanced reasoning actually mean in the context of this financial data visualization?
Good question. So advanced reasoning, as it's described in relation to this feature, refers to Gemini's ability to understand the nuanced and, frankly, complex nature of your request.
Okay.
When you ask something like, compare the stock performance of blue-chip CPG companies in 2024, the AI doesn't just see keywords. It needs to reason about what that request truly means in a financial context.
It has to interpret the terms.
Exactly. It has to interpret blue-chip CPG companies as a category of entities it needs to identify. It has to understand stock performance as a metric, often involving tracking changes over time, and figure out how to measure that performance for comparison within the specified time frame, 2024.
I see.
This requires inferring your intent and translating that high-level request into a series of specific data identification, retrieval, and processing steps. It's really about understanding the underlying analytical task that's embedded within your natural language query.
So it's like it figures out the analytical problem I'm trying to solve, even though I haven't given it explicit instructions like find list of companies, get stock data, calculate percentage change, plot online graph.
Precisely that. It uses its advanced reasoning to bridge that gap between your natural language question and the structured data processing needed to answer it. It kind of decomposes the query into the necessary subtasks, identifying relevant entities, determining the required data types like historical stock prices, maybe dividend info specifying timeframes, and understanding the need for comparison and visualization.
Okay, that covers advanced reasoning. What about the other part, multimodal capabilities? How does that apply when the input is text and the output is text plus a chart? It's not like I'm inputting an image or audio here.
That's a good clarification to make based on the article's description. While multimodal, in its broadest sense, does mean handling different types of data inputs, text, image, audio, video.
Right.
In the context of this specific feature as described, it primarily relates to the AI's ability to process textual and numerical data and then generate a different type of output specifically, a visual one, the chart.
Ah, okay. So the multipart is about the output type being different from the input.
In this application, yes. It's the capability to take the processed data and the understanding of your request and translate that into an effective visual representation. It requires the AI to understand not just the data itself, but also the principles of data visualization. Knowing what type of chart best illustrates performance over time, how to label axes properly, how to represent different companies clearly, that sort of thing.
So the underlying Gemini model might have broader multimodal skills?
It does.
But for this feature, the key multimodal application is generating that visual output, the chart, from the text input and the numerical data it finds.
Exactly. That's the core function described here.
Okay, so Gemini is doing the heavy lifting, understanding the complex query, using multimodal capacity to translate the answer into a visual format. The article also outlines the steps Gemini takes. Can you walk us through those in a bit more detail?
Sure. Based on the source, the process Gemini follows to deliver this feature involves several critical steps right after you pose the query. First and foremost, it's analyzing what you're requesting.
Back to the reasoning part.
Exactly, back to that advanced reasoning.
Yeah.
Deeply understanding the intent of your complex financial query. What's the comparison you're looking for? What specific entities or categories are involved, like blue-chip CPG companies? What's the relevant time frame? This step is all about accurately interpreting the analytical need.
It's trying to get to the heart of the question, not just match keywords.
Right, it's figuring out the precise analytical task. Then the second step is culling the relevant financial data. The article is specific here, noting that this process includes gathering both current and historical data.
Okay, that's important.
Absolutely crucial for providing meaningful performance comparisons over time, like in our 2024 example. The AI needs access to data points stretching back through the specified period, not just a snapshot of today. This implies, a connection to vast repositories of financial market data that Google has access to, or indexes.
So it's like it goes out and gathers all the necessary ingredients, current and past data points from various places to fulfill the request.
That's a very good analogy, yes.
Yes.
It collects all the raw material needed for the comparison or analysis. And then the third significant step is determining the most effective way to present that information visually.
This is where the multimodal part really comes in.
Strongly, yes. The AI doesn't just collect the data. It uses its understanding of your request and the data itself to select the appropriate chart type. For a stock performance comparison over time, well, a line graph showing trends would likely be chosen as most effective.
Makes sense.
For comparing values at a specific point, maybe a bar chart. It also involves organizing the data clearly within that visual, labeling axes, creating legends, ensuring it's readable.
So Gemini isn't just finding the data and summarizing it, it's actively deciding how best to show that data to me in a visual way that makes the comparison or trend easy to grasp.
That's precisely what the article indicates. It leverages its capabilities to make intelligent decisions about the visual presentation. This requires a deep understanding not only of the numerical data, but also of effective communication principles through visualization. How can this potentially complex set of numbers be best represented graphically to answer the user's specific question clearly and efficiently? It's a sophisticated process that moves beyond simple data retrieval to data synthesis and presentation design, all tailored to your query.
That seems like a genuinely difficult technical challenge, though. Financial data can be tricky. Different metrics, different scales, different time frequencies. For an AI to reliably select the right chart type and present it effectively for any reasonable comparison query within its scope, well, that implies a lot of underlying intelligence and presumably a lot of training data.
It absolutely is a significant technical hurdle. Understanding the nuances of different financial metrics, ensuring data accuracy when pulling historical info, and then making consistent, intelligent decisions about visualization based on your specific, potentially unique query that's a complex task.
Yeah.
It requires sophisticated data processing pipelines, robust reasoning capabilities, advanced data visualization algorithms, all integrated smoothly. This is why, as the article highlights, Google is leveraging a cutting-edge model like Gemini for this. It signifies a move towards AI as an active participant in data analysis and presentation, not just a passive search tool.
All right, so we know the power behind it and the complexity involved. But circling back to practicality, where can a user actually access this feature? Is it something everyone sees in Google Search today?
No, and it's really crucial to reiterate this point from the article. As we touched on earlier, the feature's availability is currently limited, very limited.
Okay.
The source clearly states that this capability is available only through AI mode, and specifically within Google Labs.
And what does being in labs truly mean for the user? Like, what are the implications of that?
Being in labs signifies that the feature is experimental. It's a testing phase. Google uses labs as a way to get real-world usage and feedback on new features from interested users before potentially deciding to roll them out more broadly into the main Google search experience.
Or not.
Or, conversely, deciding to significantly alter them or even discontinue them altogether based on the test results and feedback.
So if a user tries this out, they should go in with the understanding that it might not be perfect. It might be less reliable than core search features. It could change based on feedback, or it might not even become a permanent part of Google search.
Exactly. Those are all possibilities inherent in a feature being labeled Labs. It's not presented as a stable, finished, permanent addition. And the article confirms that as of now, Google has not yet announced any specific plans for a wider rollout of this financial data visualization capability outside of the Labs program. It's purely a testing ground at this stage.
Okay. And the scope of this visualization, is it strictly limited to financial data, or could it eventually chart other types of data if I asked? Could I ask it to compare, say, population growth rates across different countries or maybe energy consumption trends?
The article is quite specific on its current scope. It emphasizes that this data visualization capability, as currently implemented and described, is limited specifically to financial information.
Only finance.
Yes. There is no mention or announcement in the source about expanding this specific visualization feature to other types of data or other data-heavy industries yet. The focus, for now, is purely on financial queries that lend themselves to charting and comparison.
Okay, so to be crystal clear for the listener, if you're interested in trying this specific capability, getting interactive charts for financial queries directly in Google AI mode, you need to actively seek it out through Google's Labs program. It won't just appear in your standard search results right now.
That's absolutely right. Users who want to participate in this experiment would need to access Google Labs, typically found linked from Google Search or via a dedicated Labs portal, and then opt into the AI mode experiments that include this feature. It's an opt-in testing environment.
So, very early days indeed. It really is like getting a sneak peek at a prototype rather than using the finished product.
Precisely. It's a clear demonstration of a technical capability Google is exploring with AI in search, but it's definitely not presented as a finished or widely deployed feature at this point.
Let's pivot slightly and think about the broader ecosystem this fits into. How does a capability like this, even in its experimental phase, potentially impact the existing landscape, particularly for businesses that operate in the financial data space? The article specifically discusses the implications for financial publishers.
Yes, this is one of the major points of analysis presented in the article, and it's worth serious consideration. The primary implication highlighted is that financial websites and online publishers who rely heavily on traffic generated by users searching for comparison content. Pages comparing stocks, mutual funds, different financial products, market trends, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They should be paying very close attention to this development and definitely monitoring their website analytics.
And the reason for that concern is pretty straightforward, isn't it? If Google's AI is now providing direct visual answers to these complex financial questions right within the search results, well, why would a user need to click through to an external website?
That's exactly the potential impact. If a user asks AI mode for a chart comparing the 2024 stock performance of several companies, and AI mode provides that clear, interactive chart directly in its response, well, the user might feel their information need has been met right there, without needing to navigate to a third-party financial website. This could, logically, lead to a reduction in click-through rates from Google search results for those types of comparison queries. The article points out that this is really a continuation of a longer-term trend, where Google provides more answers and information directly on the search engine results page, the SRP, often referred to as zero-click searches.
So publishers who invested heavily in creating content that primarily focuses on just presenting comparative financial data or charts, they might see their organic traffic from Google search potentially decrease for those specific topics. That could certainly be a significant challenge if their business model relies on ad revenue or subscriptions driven by that comparison traffic.
It absolutely presents a challenge to that particular content strategy. The source suggests that searchers might click through to external sites less often for basic comparison data because they're getting the summary and the visualization directly from Google AI mode. This forces a reevaluation, really, of what kind of value publishers need to provide to attract and retain users in this space.
But the article isn't entirely doom and gloom for publishers, is it? It also points out that this shift creates new opportunities.
That's a crucial counterpoint the source makes, yes. While Google AI mode might handle the basic data visualization, this development also kind of compels financial publishers to find new, different, and perhaps more valuable ways to serve their audience. They can differentiate themselves by offering content that goes beyond the basic data visualization that Google is now starting to provide.
Okay, so if Google gives me the chart, What can a publisher offer that Google's AI, at least as described here, isn't providing? What kind of deeper analysis are we talking about based on the article?
The article suggests, and I think this is where the real opportunity lies, that publishers can focus on providing deeper analysis or expert commentary on the financial data. Think about it. Google AI gives you the chart showing that company A outperformed company B in 2024. A publisher can then provide an article that analyzes why that happened.
The why.
Exactly. They can delve into the market factors, the management decisions, the competitive landscape, the macroeconomic trends that influence that performance. They can offer expert opinions, maybe forward-looking forecasts, regulatory context, or insights into qualitative factors that, data alone might not capture.
So they move from being primarily a source of the data chart itself to being a source of understanding and interpretation of that chart and the underlying trends.
Precisely. If Google provides the what, the data, and the basic visual publishers can increasingly provide the why and perhaps the so what. They can add layers of context, professional expertise, maybe investigative journalism, or unique perspectives that transform that raw data into actionable insight or deeper understanding.
Yeah.
This encourages publishers to move up the value chain, focusing on analysis, interpretation, and opinion rather than just data presentation. It forces them to leverage their human expertise and unique access to information or sources.
It's almost a push towards higher quality, more sophisticated content then. If the easy, replicable task of data visualization is being handled by AI, the value of human expertise in analyzing and interpreting that data actually increases.
That's a very good way to frame it. It encourages publishers to focus on the value only they can truly provide unique insights, expert perspectives, investigative depth, and contextual analysis that AI, at least in its current described function, isn't really equipped to deliver.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit now and look at the bigger picture. This experimental financial data visualization feature, while it's specific and limited right now, it feels like a piece of a much larger puzzle in the evolution of search, doesn't it?
It does.
What does this signal about the future of AI-powered search more broadly, based on the article's perspective?
Well, the article frames this feature within a significant ongoing trend in Google search. It sees this as part of a broader move toward providing comprehensive visual responses directly within the search results interface.
Right.
Rather than primarily serving as just a list of links to other websites, the search result itself is becoming less about where to find information and more about delivering the information directly, often in these rich, easy-to-consume formats like visuals.
Comprehensive and visual. That makes sense. Google's trying to give you a more complete answer up front. When data is involved, yeah, a visual representation can be much more comprehensive than text alone.
Exactly. And the source explicitly connects this feature and others like it to Google's ongoing strategic goal of becoming the go-to source for information rather than just a gateway to other websites.
That is a really critical distinction, isn't it? It's the difference between Google linking you to the information located on someone else's website versus Google synthesizing that information and presenting the answer or the data directly within its own interface.
Right. Historically, Google's core function was indexing the vastness of the web and acting as the ultimate guide or gateway, helping you discover the best place online that contained the information you were searching for. With features like this AI mode visualization and also things like AI overviews more generally, Google is increasingly taking on the role of synthesizing information from various sources, which it implicitly acknowledges by performing the underlying research and presenting the answer, the summary, or the data directly to you. It's aiming to be the source of the answer itself, or at least a primary, highly convenient source.
And while this specific visualization is currently limited to financial data and stuck in labs for now, the article does hint at the potential for this capability to expand, doesn't it, given the underlying technology?
It does. The source notes that the underlying technology powering this Gemini's capabilities in understanding complex queries, processing structured data, and generating visual output could theoretically be applied to other data-heavy industries.
Okay, so thinking purely about structured data comparisons or aggregations that would benefit from visualization, like this financial feature does, what kind of other areas might this capability theoretically be applied to in the future, if Google chose to expand it, keeping it based on the article's logic, of course?
Right. Strictly extrapolating from the logic presented for financial data, AVIS, which involves comparing entities over time or across metrics using structured data, the same capability could potentially be applied to visualize and compare structured data in other fields.
Like what?
Well, for instance, comparing key specifications of different technical products, maybe smartphones, cars, computers, using charts.
Okay. Yeah.
Aggregating and visualizing sports statistics for multiple players or teams over a season. Presenting public health data trends like infection rates or vaccination percentages across different regions, using interactive maps or charts. Comparing performance metrics of different educational institutions perhaps, or even environmental data like visualizing air quality indices across cities or climate metrics over time if that data is available in a structured format that benefits from direct comparison and charting. The common thread is those complex queries requiring the aggregation and visualization of structured data from multiple entities or over time. But again, I have to stress, the article only discusses the potential application to data-heavy industries based on the technology. Its current manifestation is only finance and only in labs.
Got it. So while we're strictly focused on finance for now, because that's what the source details, the underlying technical capability could, in theory, be adapted and applied elsewhere if Google decides that's a strategic direction to pursue down the line.
Correct. The feature itself is experimental, specific to finance, and confined to labs. But the technology and the strategic thinking behind it, AI providing direct, synthesized visual answers to complex queries, definitely offers a clear glimpse into one possible future direction for AI-powered search and how we access information.
It's a fascinating look at where search might be headed, even if it's just a small window right now.
It is. And it really underscores the dynamic nature of the digital information landscape, doesn't it? Prompting everyone involved, users, content creators, platforms, to think about how roles and value are shifting.
Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive by summarizing the key points we've pulled from this source. We looked at Google's new experimental feature within AI mode in Google Labs that visualizes financial data, basically creating custom interactive charts and graphs directly in response to complex financial search queries.
Right. We detailed exactly how it works from the user side, explaining that you pose a question requiring data comparison or aggregation, and Google's system, powered by Gemini, using its advanced reasoning and relevant multimodal capabilities, automatically researches current and historical financial data and determines the best visual format for presentation. And crucially, it also understands follow-up questions, maintaining context.
We discussed its current status, firmly experimental, accessible only in labs, currently limited specifically to financial data queries, and with no announced plans for a wider mainstream rollout just yet.
And we explored the potential implications this has, particularly for financial publishers. While it definitely presents a challenge to their traffic models for basic comparison content, it also creates opportunities, pushing them maybe to provide differentiated value through deeper analysis, expert commentary, and interpretation that goes beyond simple data visualization.
So the essence here is that it's a powerful, albeit early, look at how AI could provide direct, synthesized, and visual answers to complex data questions, signifying a shift towards Google potentially acting more as a direct source of information rather than just a pathway or gateway to external websites.
And this prompts us to ask you, the listener, to consider, how might a feature like this change the way you approach seeking and understanding financial information? If you could reliably get basic data comparisons and charts directly from Google AI mode, what kind of analysis or insight or interpretation from financial publishers would become more valuable to you?
And that leads us to a final provocative thought, one that emerges directly from Google's described strategy in the article. If AI is increasingly aiming to be the go-to source for summarized, visually presented data, what does the future truly hold for the role of the traditional gateway website? The site whose primary function was to host that data and just be found via search. What new kinds of value, what unique contributions will be most essential for content creators and platforms to thrive in this evolving information ecosystem?
It's something significant to think about as the digital landscape continues its rapid evolution, that's for sure.
Indeed. That's all for this deep dive. We hope exploring this experimental Google feature gave you some clear insights into its potential and implications.